Welcome to Parashat Lecha. I love this parasha. Have you ever experienced something in your life where it seemed insignificant when it happened, and yet with hindsight, when you look back, you realize that this was a crucial moment and it changed your life? Well, we have here 7 words in chapter 17 of Lecha, which in my opinion changed the face of the world. And here they are. El Shaddai, Ani El Shaddai, Hitalech lefanai, Vehiye tamim. The simple meaning of these 7 words are, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and become perfect. But the Alshech says that the deeper meaning is that I want you, Avraham, to perform the mitzvah of Brit Milah, circumcision, and as a result of that refinement, you will then become perfect. And the Alshech goes to town with this, with tons of questions, which I'm trying to give to you now. The 4 main questions are as follows. The first is that, are you telling me that God was not able to create a perfect being? Surely he created man perfect. And if that's the case, then by doing circumcision, you're putting a blemish on the perfection of man, of the God created. Or are you telling me that God wasn't able to create man perfectly and he has to have the circumcision to complete that process? That's the first question. The second question is that we know that Avraham looked at the world and deduced the Torah and performed all the mitzvot, even the rabbinic mitzvot, even before the Torah was given. And so the Alshech says, how is it possible that of all the mitzvot in the Torah, Avraham neglected to perform the mitzvah of Brit Milah and waited for Hashem to give him that instruction at the age of 99. After all, we have in the Torah 3 major references to covenants, but in this portion of chapter 17 with the Brit Milah, we refer to the Brit, the covenant, 13 times. Surely Avram would not have neglected to perform this. The third question is, why wait till 99 before giving Avram this mitzvah? And the fourth question is, what is the connection between Hashem being El Shaddai and this mitzvah of circumcision? And the Alshech gives several explanations to these. He starts off with Maimonides. Maimonides explains that the Brit Milah is a refinement of the human being, and this gives man the ability to ascend the spiritual ladder and to resist the powers that pull him down to earth and lusts, etc. And that's why the Brit Milah was given. And there's a beautiful debate that the Alshech brings between a philosopher and Rab Chia. And anybody interested in philosophy should read this debate. It's hilarious. It's really worth reading. But the conclusion of that debate is Rab Chia says everything that was created in the first 6 days needed further refinement. For example, and he gives the example of wheat. God creates wheat, and man has to come and refine it to create bread so we can eat. So in that way, the human being was created imperfect for man to come and perfect it. We realize that in the first 2,000 years, up until this point, man constantly disobeyed God. And the Alshech suggests 3 main reasons for that to be the case. The first one is that we tend to use our intellect to rationalize and try to second guess God and to do things our way as a result of our intellect. The second is that we use lust and greed to divert us from God's will. And the third is pride. And what the Maimonides is saying is that the act of circumcision actually reduces the influence of these 3 urges to disobey God, and so allows us to ascend the spiritual ladder. The Alshech then goes to explain why El Shaddai is mentioned here for the first time. This is a way that we see later on when God speaks to Moses. This is the way God represented himself to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in terms of El Shaddai. And what does El Shaddai mean? Rashi says that El Shaddai means that I am sufficient in my way, in my divinity for all of creation. And the Rambam says something a little bit different. He says, I'm El Shaddai means that I can win and overpower all the systems of the heaven. So the Alshech says, don't think that I created you imperfect. I am El Shaddai in the same way that I told the heavens to stop expanding, and they did. I could easily have said to the human body, stop expanding and don't make the foreskin. But I didn't. And don't think it's because I wasn't able to, or it wasn't my idea of perfection. I did that in order to give you a merit to be able to complete my process of creation, and thereby refining yourself to the degree that you can merit to have the connection that I want with you and my covenant with you. And we see here that straight after these words were mentioned, God promises Abraham that he's going to go into a covenant with him. He's going to be a father of nations, fruitful, kings will come out of him. He changes his name to Abraham by adding a hey into his name. And he says that as a result of this mitzvah, I'm going to give you your children the land of Israel, Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And all you have to do, Avram, to get all of this is to circumcise yourself. That's a pretty good deal. And Avram then goes and does that. And the sages and the Alshech try to understand this connection between circumcision and becoming perfect. And they give an example that when we have fruit, we eat fruit, there are some fruit that we can eat the skin of the fruit, but we can't eat the pips, the seeds inside. There are other fruits that we don't eat the skin, but we can eat everything inside. But there's one fruit that you can eat the inside and the outside, and that fruit is the fig. And that's why some of the sages say that the tree of of knowledge of good and evil was in fact a fig tree. But this fig, you can eat all of it. And that is the allusion to Avram. Avram, at the age of 99, it took him to that age to perfect himself, to overcome his urges to go to the physical route and to ascend in the spiritual capacity. And as a result of that, he's considered perfect, or almost perfect. In fact, 99% perfect, which is his age. There was 1% that he had to do to complete his perfection. And what was that? The foreskin. And the sages compare that to the fig. When you eat all the fig, you're left with a little pip at the top that is a connection between the fig fruit and the tree. And of course, you don't eat that, you discard that. It's unnecessary. But at the time that the fig is growing, you need that part because the fig can't grow without that part. So it's, if you like, it's like, don't think that Abraham was not complete in his own midot. He was complete, but he just needed this like cosmetic surgery to finalize his completion. And what's fascinating to me is that just the next sentence, God gives him an extra hey in his name to become Avraham. And the gematria of Avram before the hey is 243. And with the hey, which is 5, it brings it up to 248, which is the number of limbs we have in the bodies and the number of positive mitzvot we have to perform. And that's a beautiful demonstration of how Avram became perfect. So that's really the explanation that the Alshech has. And to discuss this and many other ideas around this idea of how do we become walk before Hashem. What does it mean to walk before Hashem? And how do we become perfect? I have with me on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Rav Shalom Pasternak, the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Timimi Derech here in Tzfat, and he's going to discuss with me these issues. Please feel free to join us for that. I just want to leave you with one more idea, and that is that Hashem says to Avram that, when you make the circumcision, what happens is that you create an angel, and that angel stays with you for your life. And it is that angel that is the bridge, the connector, that helps us connect between me, God, and you, man. And so I wanted to give you the merit of creating this angel by performing the circumcision. So here we have it, the creation of monotheism, and it's fascinating that the whole religions of Muslim, Christianity, and Judaism came from this one man. If anybody thinks that you can't change, that one person can't change the earth, the world, then think again when you read this parasha. And I think today, over 50% of the population falls into one of those three religions. So it's an incredible thing to look and study at the source of that, and look forward to expanding that more with Rav Shlomo Pasternak on Tuesday. Thank you for listening. May you have a blessed and wonderful week. See you next week. God bless. If you like this wisdom, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay up to date.